Hey there to everyone who is reading. I am Luna and I am 27 years old. And let me start by saying I'm head over heels in love. George, my dashing husband, and I recently embarked on this exciting journey called marriage. And we are still in the honeymoon phase of it all. It has been a journey of multiple emotions, but let me not get ahead of myself. Let me take you back to how it all began. George and I, well, we're not your average couple. We are both from these high-flying, wealthy families that make it into the high-profile category in New York. But please do not mistake me for a spoiled rich brat. I've got a story to tell, and it's just not about extravagant galas and designer gowns. Our paths first crossed at a glittering charity ball. Imagine a grand ballroom adorned with chandeliers that could make stars jealous. Guests dressed to the nines and a tower of champagne. Let us just say it flowed like a river. George, my tall, dashing beau, caught my eye from across the room. It was like a fairy tale, seriously. We got to know each other and fell head over heels in love. We were very much like each other in many ways, but very different in others. For example, our families. When it came to how we have been raised, we are total opposites. My mum and dad, they have always been there for me, showering me with love, attention, and life advice. George's family? Well, let us just say they speak a different language and it's called money. George's nanny practically raised him and his parents missed more milestones than I've had hot dinners. Now, do not get me wrong, I am not one to judge here. If that's what works for them, who am I to say anything? We were in love and love can overcome a lot, right? Fast forward to our engagement day. George, being the smooth operator he is, whisked me away on a private jet to a secluded island. Just imagine the sun setting, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. George with a ring down on one knee, and guess what? I said yes, like instantly. Our parents finally met, and it was like watching two worlds collide. At least they were polite to each other, if not genuinely friendly. Plans were made, and before we knew it, our wedding day was fast approaching. I had my fabulous bestie, Cassie, by my side as my maid of honour. She was a lifesaver, helping me tackle all the wedding prep madness. But then came the time to personally invite our parents, and that is where things got a little tricky. See, my parents lived abroad, and hopping on a plane for a quick invite drop-off was not practical, but George's parents, well, they happened to be in the same city as us, New York City. They were living the high life in their penthouse on the Upper East Side. One fine day, George and I decided to head over to his parents' penthouse. His dad, the business tycoon that he is, was away on some important deals, so it was just us and his mum, Diana. Now, meeting Diana was always a bit of an adventure. She was a complex character, and I was never quite sure where I stood with her. We had met each other only a couple of times before, and well, she was not really nice to me.
Hi, Mum, it's been a while. How have you been?
George, honey, and,
Luna. Nice of you to drop by. I've been well, thank you.
I brought your favourite macaroons from that bakery downtown. Oh, and here is the wedding invitation. We know it is a formality because you will obviously be coming, but we wanted you to have one.
Ah, the wedding, right?
She opened the invitation. Is it on October the 14th?
Yes, Mum, we are so excited.
I would love to come, but I'm sorry I can't. I've had a trip to Florence planned for months. Flights, hotel bookings, the works, you get it right. I can't bail out on a girl's trip, you know.
Mum, it's our big day, come on, it would mean so much to us if you could be there.
George, I love you, but this trip is non-negotiable. Besides, we've missed other important events like your graduation, and everything turned out fine.
Mum, it did, but we're talking about my wedding here. I'm your only child, I thought...
Yeah, I was so excited to have you there as well. You are my family too.
Luna, please, this is not about you.
It is about my plans, my life. I cannot shuffle everything around for your wedding. You know, weddings are not really my thing. All that fuss, not my cup of tea. But I do wish you both happiness.
Mum, can't you reconsider?
George, I have made up my mind. I am sorry. I hope you understand. Son, I have always made it up to you, haven't I?
Yeah, Mum, you have.
I promise I will this time as well. I'll send your dad, though.
Oh, really? I'm glad he's going to be there. Have fun on your trip anyway.
I was seriously ticked off as we left Diana's penthouse. She had bailed on George's life events more times than I could count, and now she was ditching her son's wedding for a girls' trip to Florence. That was a new level of unacceptable. George was crushed, and I knew him well enough to see it. He had been looking forward to having his family around for our big day, and her last-minute change of plans had shattered his excitement. I had known George for a long time, and it was pretty clear that his mum had always been a major letdown. She had this knack for making him believe she cared, but her actions screamed the opposite. It was like she used his love for her as leverage for her own gain. George shared stories from his childhood that painted a pretty sad picture. From the sounds of it, she had manipulated him into thinking she was a caring mum, only to let him down over and over. I could not help but feel protective of George, knowing how deeply she'd hurt him. I wanted to make this day perfect for George, so when he finally slept later that night, I made a special phone call to Diana.
Luna, why on earth are you calling me at this hour?
I called you because I wanted to personally invite you to our wedding. I am begging you. Please be there for George. George has opened up to me several times about how he has felt let down by your absence in his life. He had the same look on his face today. Oh, wait, so now you're going to tell me what I did wrong while raising my son?
Who do you think you are?
No, Mum, that is not what I meant. I just thought that being at the wedding would mean a lot to him. I'm not here to blame you or change the past. I just wanted to extend an invitation.
First of all, stop calling me Mum, let alone a daughter-in-law. I can never even consider you a part of our family. I never even liked you. You are nothing compared to my son. He's handsome and smart, and you, well, let us just say you are not the brightest bulb in the box. I do not know how this happened. I love him, and he loves me. We're building our own life together, and we're happy. Oh, how touching! Love conquers all, right? Well, good luck with that fairy tale, Luna, 'cause you will be needing it.
What do you mean?
Have your little wedding, Luna, but remember, you will always be an outsider in our family. You do not know what you're getting into. If you continue down this path, you will regret it, and there will be consequences. I'm willing to face whatever comes my way. Suit yourself, darling. Bye-bye. By then, I had pretty much given up on trying to patch things up with Diana. Her outright hostility was like nothing I had ever encountered. So I decided to keep our conversation to myself. No point adding to George's pre-wedding jitters, right? I just played nice and pretended everything was all right. Over the next month, wedding preps continued, and it felt, well, kind of weird. I could relate to those people who had to bite their tongues and put on a happy face, even when they felt like screaming. It was like navigating uncharted territory where emotions simmered beneath the surface, but we had to keep them locked up. Finally, the big day arrived, and we had our rehearsal dinner. We had booked an entire hotel for the week, so all our guests were staying there. Our rehearsal dinner and wedding ceremony were also held at the same hotel. Diana's absence was conspicuous, and I could feel the tension in the room. After all, it was supposed to be the groom and his parents who held the rehearsal dinner. Even though George's dad was there, people were exchanging puzzled glances, wondering why George's mother was missing on such an important occasion. But then, Diana made her special appearance. I could not believe my eyes. Wasn't she supposed to be sipping wine in Florence? Yet there she was, striding up to George and me. Well, isn't this a picture-perfect couple? Almost makes me believe in fairy tales. Mom, what are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be in Florence?
Well, I have to leave tomorrow morning. George, sorry I would not be there for the wedding, but I could not possibly miss your rehearsal dinner while I was still here in the Big Apple. It's such a special occasion after all.
Yes, it's great to have you here. Mom, this is Luna's best friend, Casey. Casey, this is my mother, Diana.
Nice to meet you, Diana.
Likewise.
So you've had a chance to explore the hotel? It's quite luxurious. Oh, I have seen my fair share of luxury, Casey. This place is nothing special. By the way, George, can we talk for a moment? Luna, Casey, would you excuse us? George and Diana walked a few steps away, leaving Casey and me standing awkwardly.
Your mother-in-law seems challenging? You have no idea, Casey. I don't even know what she is doing here. Diana left the hall. Where did she go, George? Oh, she needed to freshen up, so I gave her our room key. And that freshening up made me pay a huge price the next day. The morning of the wedding was supposed to be all happiness and excitement, but instead it was like a scene from a disaster movie. My dreamy Vivian Westwood wedding gown had vanished into thin air. I turned our suite upside down, hoping I would find it hiding somewhere, but no luck. Tears started rolling as I realized the horror of it all. My wedding dress had poofed. On the biggest day of my life, I had nothing to wear. Could anything be worse? I called my folks, who were just in the next suite, and told them everything. They promised to rush over and help. A text to George had to do, but it would be ages before he could check it, thanks to the whole no seeing each other before the ceremony rule. Casey stepped in, saying we should hit the nearest bridal shop and grab whatever white dress was available. It was not my dream dress, but it was better than nothing. As I stood in the shop, surrounded by pretty white gowns that weren't the one, a sinking feeling settled in. The replacement dress was nice, but it could not replace that one that had mysteriously vanished. While I got dressed, my mind started ticking. Diana, my not-so-loving mother-in-law, had paid a visit the night before. I knew she did not exactly adore me, and the idea struck me like a lightning bolt. Could she be behind the disappearing dress? It sounded just like something Diana would do, a parting shot before my big day. I could not prove it, but it was all too suspicious. One minute the dress was hanging there, and the next it was nowhere to be found, and Diana was the only one who had been alone in our suite. I made a phone call to Diana. I was waiting for you to call, Luna. What on earth did you do, Diana? Are you completely out of your mind? I did what I could to put a stop to this wedding. You're absolutely crazy! Do you realise how mad George is going to be when he finds out about this? George can't marry you, Luna. I will not allow it. George is going to marry me today, Diana. No matter what you do, nothing can change that. This was just my first attempt, Luna. Be prepared. You keep saying that, Diana, but it will not make a difference. I must have done something right for George to choose me. I cannot believe he is marrying a woman like you. Well, believe it, because it is happening today. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a wedding to attend. Despite Diana's ridiculous antics, nothing could ruin our joy. Our wedding was like a fairy tale. I mean, seriously, everything was so darn perfect. Flowers everywhere, George looking all dashing at the altar, and me walking down that aisle in a last-minute gown that I got to admit still looked pretty darn amazing. My dad walked me down the aisle. George shed a few tears. Our vows, you wouldn't believe how heartfelt they were, promising a lifetime of mushy stuff like love, support, and being obsessed with each other. As we swapped rings, it hit me that this was the beginning of our epic adventure together. Then came the reception, this big fancy shindig with champagne flowing like there was no tomorrow. We danced, our friends and family gave the sweetest toasts, and the room was just bursting with love. After all the partying, George and I headed to our honeymoon suite. Alone at last, we could not help but grin like a couple of love-struck goofballs. We were officially married, and it felt so darn good. We were going to go on our honeymoon a month later because George had some work commitments, and it was all fine by me. I'd not told George about the trick his mum pulled. I wanted to deal with Diana when her little vacation was over, so there I was, a few days after our picture-perfect wedding. George was back at work, dealing with his usual commitments. Meanwhile, I was chilling at home, soaking in that newlywed bliss. Life was pretty sweet. But then, out of the blue, my phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID, and of course it was Diana. Now that was one call I definitely hadn't seen coming. Luna, honey, it is Diana. I've made a terrible mishap. I got pickpocketed here in Florence, of all places. I lost my passport. My friends have all flown out, and I'm stuck here alone. Your dad is a diplomat here in Italy, right? He was talking about it at the rehearsal dinner. Can you help me, my dearest? We are all a family, after all. I'm sure your dad can pull some strings. What family, Diana? Diplomat or not, it does not change the fact you made it pretty clear I'm not your family. Remember all those lovely things you said to me before our wedding? Luna, please, I'm desperate here. My friends have left me all alone to figure this shit out on my own. I promise I'll make it up to you somehow, you know. I can be difficult, but I'm still George's mother and your mother-in-law. I love you as my own. This is the sweetest lie I have ever heard. You are his mother, all right. Family does not treat each other the way you treated me. You missed our wedding for a silly fun trip that you take 6 times a year. Made an appearance at our rehearsal dinner just so you could steal my dress and ruin my wedding. And now you want my help when it is convenient for you. Sorry, Diana, but I am not feeling particularly charitable right now. Luna, I admit it, I have made mistakes, but you are the only one who can help me. I need to get back to New York. I have things to attend to. You are so selfish. You're not even genuinely sorry, I bet. I'm sorry, Diana. I'm not helping you. Goodbye. Just in case I forgot to mention, my dad is indeed a diplomat in Italy and I'm half Italian. I grew up in Rome but moved to New York City for school, and ever since then I have been here. But helping Diana? Ha! Nah. That was not on my cards. I was kind of anxious about George coming back because that would mean I had to tell him everything. As I sat in our living room, fidgeting with the hem of my dress, my mind raced. George was due home any minute, and I could not avoid the truth any longer. I knew he would not be mad at me, but at the same time I didn't know how he would be taking so much news since the wedding day all at once. When George finally got home, I told him everything. George, I've been meaning to tell you something.
Oh, what is it, Luna?
Well, your mum. She was the one who stole my wedding dress. She admitted to it herself. The thing is, she doesn't like me. She did not want me to be a part of the family. It was right before the wedding and I was devastated. She just wanted to ruin everything for me.
Luna, I'm so sorry about my mum's behaviour. That's just unacceptable. I can't believe she would do something like that. She tried to ruin it, not just for you, but for the both of us. Don't worry, babe, I'm going to deal with this whenever she comes back.
There's something else, George.
What is it?
Your mum called me today. Her passport has been stolen and she wanted to get here as soon as possible. She asked for help from my dad.
What did you say?
I'm sorry, George, but I could not say yes to help her. After what she did, it just didn't feel right.
You know what, Luna? She deserves it. I'm glad you did that. She can deal with her own problems no matter how much time it takes on her own. We're not helping her. She needs to learn that her actions have consequences. We're not going to bail her out.
After the whole drama, George and I finally got to enjoy our European honeymoon. We packed our bags and travelled across the continent, soaking in the sights and sounds of romantic cities. Paris, Venice, Rome, you name it. We were there, making memories that would last a lifetime. And we even visited my parents in Rome. It was a sweet treat. One day, while sipping coffee at a cute cafe in Paris, we got a text from George's dad. But it was a message from Diana. She was texting from her husband's phone. She had miraculously made it back home after 2 months. Talk about good timing. George had a good laugh about it, and honestly, we could not care less. When we got back home, Diana tried to reach out, hoping for reconciliation. But George and I were like, thanks, but no thanks. We stuck to our guns and focused on our own happiness. We decided it was best to keep our distance. 4 months into our married life, and here we are, stronger than ever. George and I have become quite the dynamic duo. We have grown, cried, laughed, and supported each other through thick and thin. Our love story is not some fairy tale. It is real, it's messy, and it's uniquely ours.